Mal drops a classic episode and reminds us why he's actually good at podcasting.
He just told us that's what it is.
No, that's not what he said.
What are you talking? He just came. He just stood stage and said, "I couldn't sleep for 72 hours." This is rap.
Okay.
This is hip hop. You niggas is just rapping. It's just bars. Nigga, put pen to paper, get in the booth, and show us why you feel like you're the best nigga in the game. What are we talking? Losing sleep over what?
That's right. On a recent episode of the Rory and Mal podcast, Mal actually did a good job, and it ran counter to all of the negative things people have been saying about him as a podcaster. Also, it showed Rory and Mal were ready for the moment. After initially starting out with no direction as a podcast, it seemed like the last few months have been a righting of the ship for the former Joe Budden business partners. But anyway, let's get into what made this episode of the Rory and Mal podcast special. Well, really, it was Mal, as he understood the moment, he understood the assignment, and he knew that when J. Cole apologized to Kendrick for dropping a half-hearted diss, it was his chance to shine, and boy, did he. Some of the things he did in this rant that I found really great was he led us inside into how Drake invited him to the concert and gave him some backstage conversation the two had. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say Mal's being a Drake writer, but this is good podcasting. Mal letting us into a conversation he had with one of the seminal artists of this generation is great podcasting. By allowing us into this conversation, he's storytelling. That's how you do the job. And honestly, that's not something I expected from Mal. That's something I expected from Joe Budden. That's something I expected from Charlemagne. But Mal, he did a great job. Furthermore, he did not allow Damaris to try to reframe the conversation anytime she tried to defend Cole or add some type of dissenting opinion. He stood firm on his ground and provided hilarious moments for the show. I really think this is what will take the Rory and Mal podcast out of here. As I was listening to this, I thought, man, are these guys about to go on a run? Yes, the numbers might never be what they were with Joe Budden, Rory, and Mal, but the vibe, the feeling, the understanding of the moment, oh man, something special is happening at the Rory and Mal podcast. And there was a couple of other things that happened. Rory knew to let his mans go off. He understood, oh my God, Mal's about to drop 30. Let me go in the corner. Let me shoot the corner three. If I'm open, I'm open. I'm going to let Mal do his thing. And Damaris, I think next time, I know it's tough to tell a woman be quiet, but you gotta figure out your spots. You gotta understand, oh, Mal's doing this thing. And another thing, it's probably a great idea that Julian wasn't here for this episode. Granted, he went to go see the Dreamville concert, which is essentially the day that hip-hop died. I really do think we're going to look back at that moment and realize that hip-hop was never the same. But he was at that concert, and he probably would have ruined it by caping for J. Cole. And once again, this is one of the benefits of the Rory and Mal podcast. There's not too many mics. So when someone has an opinion, they're allowed to speak. They're allowed to flesh out thoughts. And let's talk about it. This response that Mal did to J. Cole folding like a lawn chair has been better than a lot of the conversations the Joe Budden podcast has been having about the rap beef. It could be Joe is redundant. It could be, we've seen Joe do this before and Mal hasn't. So that's why it looks that way. As for Mal, who knows if he will be able to keep up the consistency. Yes, he was able to rise to the occasion. But like in the NBA, it matters what you do in Charlotte more than what you do in Los Angeles. On a Tuesday episode when nothing's going on, how will Mal show up? Because I guess he only shows up when special things happen. Now, another thing I wanted to address that will take the Rory and Mal podcast up another level is if they do Drink Champs or $1 million worth of game. I'm noticing Rory has been doing episodes by himself. He went on Bag Fuel. He went on my podcast. Now, granted, I didn't think Mal was going to come to that. I understand. But I thought he would have went to the Bag Fuel podcast. I mean, they filmed it at his studio. They filmed it at Rory and Mal's studio. So why couldn't Mal just come through? And now I want to see what Rory and Mal bring to other platforms. This is how you go on a run. When you start to take your greatness other places, that's when people really start to feel the vibes and understand you got something special cooking. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you feel like Mal restored the energy? Or do you think that this was just a blip on the radar and Mal likely won't be able to recreate this moment again? Because it's not just one moment that makes a great podcast. It's a series of moments. And only time will tell if this is the Mal that we will get moving forward. All right, y'all. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow my network, Reddit, about the Joe Budden podcast. It's called Joe Budden Network. And I think it's a great place to share ideas. It's the only subreddit about the Joe Budden podcast where you can post about Rory and Mal, right? The other subreddits have made a decision to ban Rory and Mal topics from the Reddit. But me, I understand the history of the show. I understand the feelings, the vibrations. Rory and Mal were part of the history, so they will never be erased on my Reddit. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. Once again, put your post notifications on. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.